So now I will begin. Good morning or good evening or good whatever you are. I'm very happy to present the first time on the Canadian Cloud Summit. Unfortunately, it's online, so I'm not in Canada, but in Europe, in Vienna, but that's also very nice. First of all, I want to thank all our sponsors. They make events like this happen, and thank you very much. I will start with a little introduction. I'm Christian. I'm a double MVP for security and teams. And the reason why I put this in the first sentence is because this reflects my passion in my work and in my hobby and in all of the things I do reflects very well, because on the one hand I'm a great fan to give people all the possibilities and the tools and the services that they can make their life better, their business life better. So I'm a great fan to give them anything Microsoft 365 offers them. On the other side, I'm a security guy, so security, data protection, governance is very important for me. And my goal is to make a system, to configure a system, an environment that fits, on the one hand, the need of the people to do everything they need, and on the other hand, that fits also the need of security and governance in companies. And to find this balance between these two points, security, governance, and all features, this is really my passion. In a work life, I'm a cloud architect at ACP. ACP is a partner, Microsoft partner in Austria and Germany, one of the best for sure. And my job is to guide businesses through their adoption of Microsoft 365, from management workshops to data protection and worker council workshops, security and governance, and last but not least, user adoption. I have a blog, but unfortunately for you, it's mostly in German, but you can look at it, you can translate it with your browser and can read it. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I like very interactive sessions, so I have the chat in my mind, in my view, and I hope I will answer your questions. Why did I make this session? If you work with Office 365 and if you work with customers, you often see that customers say, oh, I have set up my environment very well 5 years ago, and it works and it runs and it's safe and it's secure and it gives my people all the possibilities. So I will not change a running system. Other people say, oh, I have the default settings and I'm good with the default settings. And others says, oh, I have a partner and he does everything fine and it's good. Some people visit our monthly news session, the M365 news, and say, oh, I know about every feature because I watch your monthly session. Unfortunately, this session is also in German. And other people say, you really make a session about features in Office 365, and some of the features are 14 years old, really. So the idea of this session is that you have to change a running system. Why? Because Microsoft changes your environment all the time. If you look back 1 year, there were more than 380 changes in Microsoft 365 last year. So your environment changes. You get new features changes, default settings change in your living environment. So you have to be aware of all the settings. And I will not show you how to configure a zero trust tenant. I will not show you how to configure the most secure and governed tenant in the world. Why? Because my experience is if you do too much security, if you do too much governance, your whole system gets less secure than if you have a good balance between productivity and security. Why? I'll give you an example. If you don't allow the invitation of guests, if the process to invite the guest is very complicated for your users, and one of your user has a project with people outside of your company, and he cannot invite the people outside the company to their teams, what will happen? The other people will create a team and invite your people to their teams. And that means that all of the data will reside in the team of the partner and not in your team. You will have no control about this data. You will have no control who else has access to this data. So make the process to invite guests very easy, because then the teams will reside on your tenant. You will decide which guests have access to your tenant, and then you have a good balance between productivity and security. Are these all my ideas, my best practice recommendations? Are these all settings where I say you have to make it blue or green or something like that? No. I work at ACP Group. We have more than 2,500 employees in Austria and in Germany. And we have Microsoft 365 communities with not all, but most of the good Microsoft 365 consultants across all locations in Austria and Germany. We have this community since 6 years. We have monthly meetings, and we have annual in-person meetings. And we decided to create a Microsoft 365 standard for our company. So we have this standard since 3 years now, that about 150 settings in Microsoft 365, so all of the services. The settings are a good balance between security and productivity. We do not only have settings, but we have also processes. So we have a procedure how to implement conditional access in your company. We have a procedure how to implement privileged identity management, a procedure how to implement Intune. And we also have a process to change this setting. So everyone in our company can say, oh, I don't like the setting with the number 43. In my opinion, the setting should be green and not blue. Then he can add this change, and we discuss all the changes in the monthly meetings. And if the whole group says, okay, that's fine, let's change it, then we change this setting. That's also true for new settings, or for settings that were deleted from Microsoft. So we have about 40 changes in a year, and that makes sure that our settings are always reflect the state-of-the-art configuration. I will show you my 10 favorite settings in Microsoft 365. And I'm sure at least 5 settings will be boring for you. So, but for 5 settings, you will say, okay, I know this since 14 years. So this is a very old setting, or this is a very common setting, or why do you explain it? But I'm sure at least 2 settings will be settings where you say, I heard about it, but I never thought about it. Thank you for this setting. And I'm sure there will be 3 settings where you say, oh, thank you telling me this. I wasn't aware about this. The problem is that the 5, the 2, and the 3 settings are different for everyone. So I decided 10 settings, and I will show you all of the settings in a live demo. So I will show all the admin center where you find the settings. The session is being recorded, so you can watch after, and you can download the slide deck. I give you a link on the end of the session. And in the slide deck, you will find all of the settings I tell you with screenshots, because this is my backup if I do an in-person session and internet is not working, so I can do it completely offline. If I tell a setting where you say, oh God, you cannot do it, please feel free to put a chat, put a note in the chat. I can enable your mic and your camera so we can discuss. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to chat. Perfect. Then let's start with the demo. The first setting is a very old setting, but I see that not every customer has configured this setting. If you go to the admin center and you go to settings and you go to org settings and you go to the organizational profile, here you can configure a custom theme. And in this custom theme, you can change, or you can add the logo of your company, and you can change the colors that they reflect the colors of your company. You have similar settings in Entra. So in Entra and identity and user experience, company branding, here you also have a lot of settings that you can configure. Why should you configure these settings? Because it helps your users to identify phishing attacks. I give you an example. If you log on to Microsoft 365 and you add your username and you have configured this company branding, then the user will get a company branded logon screen. And yes, there is no guarantee that the user will recognize that in case of a phishing attack, he will get a normal login page. But it helps your users to be aware, oh, that doesn't look like it looks normally when I log on, so I have to be careful. The other part is, if you work in the admin center or in Entra, you also have the logo and the colors, and it helps you to be aware I'm in the right company, especially if you are a Microsoft partner and if you support a lot of companies. This helps you to be aware, oh, this is company A and company B. So the second setting is a setting I changed after the last session. I made this session this week in UK, and one of the participants asked for a setting on the end of the session, and I recognized that the setting he asked is one of our standard, and that this setting is more important than the other setting I had prepared. So I changed this setting. So this is the first time I show it in this session. And what is this setting? Microsoft provides the possibility for third-party vendors that they can use the Microsoft 365 account for their environment. So, for example, I have Miro. Miro is a third-party company. A lot of people like the Miro boards. And if you go to Miro and say sign up free, you have the possibility to create your sign up with username and password as normal, but you also have the possibility to sign up with Google, Slack, and Office 365. And signing up with Office 365 is a good thing for your company, because if your employees sign up with their Office 365 account, then their password is not stored in the database of Miro, because the password is stored in your Active Directory, Entra ID, and you see which applications are used from which users. Per default, every user can register for every application. And here's a little bit of a problem. If I sign up with Office 365, Miro can request features or permissions that I have in my user account. And Miro writes here which permissions Miro want to have from me. So the permission sign you in and read your profile is okay, because I want Miro to sign in with my credentials. The permission that Miro has access to data where I give access to Miro is also fine. But in the case of Miro asks also, can I have access to your relevant people list? And here is the possibility that the user gives Miro access to contacts without having the permissions of these people that Miro can access their contacts. I had an application, I don't know if you know Doodle. Doodle asked for, can I have access to your complete Entra ID, please? Because every user can read the complete Entra ID of your company. So in this case, the user gave Doodle the permission to read all of your contacts in your Entra. And that is nothing you want your users to do. And you can configure it. If you go to Entra and you go to Applications and Enterprise Applications, you have the consent and permission. And the default in this setting is that allow user consent for apps. And please change it to do not allow, or better, allow user consent for apps from verified publishers. So the publisher has to be verified, and for selected permissions. And you can classify the permissions that you allow. And these 5 permissions are with low risk. So I can read the email address of the user. I can maintain access to data the user gave me. I can sign in the user. I can see the basic profile of the user, and I can sign in and read the profile. That means that the users can use their Microsoft 365 credentials for signing up. They do not have additional passwords in other systems. And you see in the list of the enterprise applications, which applications your users are using. So let's change to Teams. Or are there any questions about this? No. Let's change to Teams. We all know if you do a team meeting, there is no security behind the link of a team meeting. So everyone that has access to the link can click on the link and can sign up to your meeting. The meeting owner can decide who has to wait in the lobby and who can go directly to the meeting. You can configure the default for this setting in the Teams Admin Center, Meetings, Meeting Policies. And if we look at the meeting policy, then we see, we have here the setting who can bypass the lobby. And The default is people in my org and guests. Guests mean you have to change your tenant to the guest tenant, and then you have access to the meeting. No one is doing this, so in reality, that means people in your org. The idea is clear, and a lot of companies like that. So the access to the meeting room in my company is also for everyone in my org, and guests have to wait until I bring them to the meeting. But if you have a board meeting in your company and there are 50, 60 people in this board meeting, all managers, and I have access to the calendar of my manager, I have access to the link to the board meeting. And if there are 50, 60 people in the board meeting, I can attend the board meeting and no one will recognize that I'm in the board meeting. So the problem with this setting is if you have sensitive meetings in your company, then everyone in your company that had access to a calendar of one of the participants can attend the meeting. And Microsoft created a new setting, I think 3 or 4 years ago, and the setting is people who were invited. And that means that all people that were invited to the meeting can access the meeting directly. All other people have to wait in the lobby. And for us, this setting is better as a default because it's more secure, because everyone I invited, I want to have in my meeting. Everyone I haven't invited, I don't want in my meeting. If you use the new Outlook or if you use Outlook Web Access, you have in the meeting options the possibility to disable the forwarding of the meeting, and that means you have the total control who can access your meeting. My recommendation is change it in your global settings, in your global policy to this, inform your users. The meeting owner can change it for every meeting, but the default will be more secure than the default from Microsoft. Any questions? Okay. So the next session, Raphael, sorry, I will show the feature. Raphael has a session after my session, and he will speak 1 hour about this feature, so I will show it only few. The next session is one of my favorite features because it's a perfect feature that gives you a lot of security and that is very easy to understand for the user. And I like features like this. So the problem is if you allow guests in your tenant and people invite guests to teams, not all people are aware that maybe in the team are sensitive internal informations that are not good for guests. And that is the reason why a lot of companies do not allow the invitation of guests. But with Microsoft Purview, with the E3 license and also business premium and I think business standards, you have a perfect solution to help your users. And I see I have to forgot to open Teams. So with Purview, you can do sensitivity labels for your users. So go to the Purview portal, go to solutions, go to information protection. You will find in the slide deck a link how to prepare for sensitivity labels in your tenant. That's a little bit longer. Maybe Raphael is speaking about. But here you have the sensitivity labels for Teams. And here you can create a label for your Microsoft 365 groups. We create the label guests and no guests. And I will show you the features of the label no guests. So you have a display name, a description for the users. You configure it for groups and sites. You configure the privacy and external user access, and you, in the no guest label, you do not activate this setting. So let Microsoft Group owners add people outside of your company. There's a second benefit of these labels, and this is the possibility to disallow your users to create public teams. Why is this important? Because not all of your users are aware what is the difference between a public and a private team. A lot of people think, if I want to invite guests, I have to do a public team. But that's not true. The difference between a public and a private team is, as most of you know, the private team is a team where the team owner decides who is member of the team. The public team is visible for all of your people in your company, and everyone in your company can say, oh, the team sounds nice, I want to be member. But there is another feature of public teams that most of the people don't know. All documents in a public team are available for all users in your company. That means if a user goes to office.com and goes to the search bar and searches for several words, he will find all documents in all public teams, even if he's not member of these public teams. And if the user can find it in the search, Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, will also use these documents. And those you don't want, or most of the team owners don't know this. So my recommendation for you, go to your team admin center, look for all of your public teams and speak with the team owners of these teams if they know that all the documents are available for all users in the company. Microsoft gives us no option to disable the creation of public teams, but with the sensitivity label, you can say, I allow only private teams. And with this, people can only create private teams. Yeah, this is the configuration of the label. You have to publish it afterwards and create also a guest label where you allow it. And as I told you, the next session, Raphael will talk in detail about this session. And I know Raphael, and Raphael is a hero and he's good. And yeah. So the next setting. You know that it's not possible to remove the last owner of a team. So theoretically, there is no Microsoft 365 group without an owner. But if you disable or remove the user who is the last owner of a Microsoft 365 group or a team, then you have a team or a group without an owner. And that's not good. And Microsoft gave us an option for all licenses, and that's very fine. If you go to the admin center, if you go to org settings, so settings, org settings, and you go to Microsoft 365 groups, then you have a feature, ownerless groups. And this is relative new, I think 1 or 2 years. And if you configure this policy, you can say, I want for an ownerless group that all active members receive a notification. So notify 5 active members and notify them weekly for 4 weeks. And then you can send these members a message where you say, hey, your team has no owner. Do you want to become owner? And this is a very good and easy option to avoid teams without owners. If you have organizational teams or sensitive teams, then you have to make sure that if a user leaves the company who is owner of teams like this, that he nominate another person who is owner. But for most of the teams, this is a very good setting. No questions, no comments. Good. So let's go to number 6. Microsoft wants your users to use their systems. Surprise. So in the default setting, every user has the possibility to request a trial license from Microsoft. And in my opinion, you don't want that a user gets a license without your knowledge and without your permissions. In the past, we had a setting since beginning of Office 365, I think, user-owned and apps in the admin center, settings, org settings, services, user-owned and apps. And here you can disable, let users start trial on behalf of your organization. That was good until we recognized that this is a nice setting, but this setting does not work for all of the applications from Microsoft. So there were several teams that allow trials, even if this setting is disabled. And I think since 3 or 4 months, I always forget when Microsoft brings in the new features, but this is relatively new. You have here in the admin center the self-service trials and purchases. And here you have the possibility for every single, for most of the services to disable the trial version in your company. In the moment we have 27 items, and yes, you have select every service, say do not allow, close it, next service, do not allow, close it. So there is no select all and do not allow. Or you can do it with PowerShell. My recommendation is look at this list so every 6 months or so, because Microsoft will add new features here, and they are per default on allow. Is there no chance that your users will use services that you do not allow? No. For example, Power Automate is a feature that is that you can block only through conditional access and not through this setting. Perfect. Number 7. Number 7 is also a feature that brings a lot of security and that makes life much more easier. And for a reason I do not understand, Microsoft disables this feature in the default configuration of a tenant. I speak about FIDO keys or passkeys. So if you go to the Enter Admin Center, and if you go to identity and sorry, I have identity, protection, and authentication methods, then you will see that the possibility to use passkey or FIDO is disabled for all users. And I do not really understand this setting. Why? The authentication in Office 365 is OAuth. OAuth is an internet standard, and OAuth has one problem. The problem is, if I get access to the session token of your session, I can steal this token very easily, and I can use your session token on my computer to log in as you as a user. And no conditional access does not help. MFA does not help because the MFA is in the token. So The only setting in conditional access that will be respected from every access with a token is the location. So that's the reason why we block normally all access from outside the European Union, and for admin from outside the country where the company resides. If you authenticate with a passkey or a FIDO key, then I can steal your token, but I cannot use your token. So the authentication with passkey and FIDO is phishing resistant. And on the other hand, it's very easy. And that's the reason why I recommend enable FIDO passkey for all of your users. Because if a user has a FIDO key like this and wants to use it in your company, hey, that's cool. On the other hand, my recommendation is that every user that has an admin role with an admin user, hopefully, should be forced to use only passkey for authentication. I will not talk about passkey in Enter, but if you haven't tried it, please try it. Passkey in Enter is really, really, really cool. I use it all the time, and you do not have to enter a password. You do not have to wait for the authenticator to enter the number. You type in your username, you get a notification on your phone. You press your thumb on your phone, your fingerprint, and you're authenticated. It's really fast and it's secure and it's easy. So, feature number 8, we are good in time. SharePoint. You know, you have a limited number of gigabytes of storage in your tenant. And you have per default versioning for all of your documents. And that is a little bit of a problem. Why? Because if you have a group of 10 people that are working on a very important PowerPoint presentation, and the PowerPoint presentation has 200 megabytes, and 10 people are editing this 200 megabytes every day, then you will have a lot of versions of this PowerPoint. And for example, if you have 10 versions per day of a 200 megabyte PowerPoint, then you will have 2 gig per day only for this file. So the first setting we recommend is that you enable the manual site storage limits in your SharePoint Admin Center. So SharePoint Admin Center settings, site storage limit. If you set this to manual, then you get a new menu item in the site creation. That's really good from Microsoft. The default storage limit, and you see the default storage limits for every Microsoft 365 group or every team is the maximum allowed. So my first recommendation is add 50 gig, 20 gig, 100 gig, it does not matter, but do not add 25 terabyte because one team can fill up all of your storage in SharePoint. And new, I think it comes this year, is the version history limit. You can change this from manual to automatic. And this means that Microsoft will delete all the versions of the document. There is a very good process behind this. I will explain it on an easy way. So for example, if we have one file with 10 versions every day, then Microsoft will keep up all the 10 versions for the last 14 days, for example. So all numbers are just examples. And after 40 days, Microsoft will keep only 5 versions per day for the next 2 months. And after these 2 months, Microsoft will keep only 1 version per day of this document. So this is really good, and this frees up space in your tenant. But this setting is only valid for new teams. And users can oh, I forgot something. Okay, I will finish this and then I will show it to you. Users can open their SharePoint side of their team or their Microsoft 365 group, can go to Documents, can click here, can go to Library Settings. I always love the menu structure of SharePoint, more library settings, so easy and logical. And here you have the version settings. And in the version settings, you can change the version time limit from no time limit to automatic on existing sites. This will free up your tenant, but it would take 90 days, because if this automatically process deletes old versions, they will go to the paper basket and will be removed from the paper basket after 90 days, and then your storage is free. So, and I forgot to show you one feature of the sensitivity labels. I told you that it's very easy for the user, and that means that the user sees in the teams here the sensitivity label. So I see this is a team where no guests are allowed, and I cannot add a guest to this team. And I cannot share documents with people outside of my company in this team. So this is really easy. The user can change the label to guests. And so this is an easy feature for your users. So number 9. Number 9 is also SharePoint. And it's about sharing. The default setting in SharePoint is that your people can share documents and folders with everyone. Everyone means if Raphael shares a document with me with this feature, I can use the link Raphael sent to me and publish it on my X account. And all of my 13 X follower have access to the document that Raphael shared with me. And I don't think that you like this idea. So my recommendation is change it to new and existing guests. This gives your people the possibility to share documents with people outside the company without using Dropbox or consumer file shares. And there are some other settings. One setting that is on per default is allow guests to share items they don't own. I think that a guest should not share documents that he doesn't own, so disable this. There is no reason that guests share documents. And here you can configure the default setting if users share a document. And my recommendation is default should always be the least privilege. So change it to specific people. So the user has to add people, and change it to few so that people have to change the setting to edit if they want that the people can edit the document. So, and the last setting is very nice setting. It's about booking. And I don't mean the hotel booking, but I mean the booking in Office 365. That's a really, really nice feature. I use it very heavily so that my customers can book workshops directly in my calendar. And the booking gives your users per default the possibility to create shared booking pages. The technology behind the shared booking page is that Microsoft creates a shared mailbox. And this gives you two problems. The first problem is there is no way to identify a shared mailbox in your Exchange Admin Center that is used by bookings. So a shared mailbox is a shared mailbox, and you cannot filter all the shared mailboxes that are used by booking. The second problem is I can create a shared booking page with the name of my CEO. So our CEO is Rainer Kalkbrenner. He has only one N in his name, but I can create a booking page with Rainer Kalkbrenner with two N very easily. And because the booking page is a shared mailbox and I'm the owner of the shared mailbox, I can go to my Outlook, can say open another mailbox, and can open the shared mailbox of my booking page. And now I can send mails in the name of my CEO. And I don't think you like the idea. And that's the reason why we have a setting in the Admin Center, in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, settings, org settings, bookings. And here you have the possibility to enforce a naming policy for bookings calendars. And with these naming policies, I always recommend a suffix and not a prefix. With this naming policy, you can identify all of the shared mailboxes of in your Exchange that are used by bookings, and it's not so easy for your users to create booking shared pages with the name of your CEO. And that was number 10. All right. So let's go back to the SharePoint. I showed you the org themes in Enter and the Admin Center. I showed you why you should configure the user consent to apps, why you should change the setting in Teams who can bypass the lobbies, why you should create sensitivity labels for Teams and go to Raphael's sessions afterwards, why you should configure the no owner policy, why you should disable the trial versions, why you should enable feeder keys, why you should change the site limits and sharing in SharePoint, and why you should enable a booking naming convention. Any questions? And while I'm waiting for the questions, if you use this link or this link, you will have a short email form, and after answering the email form, you can download directly my slides, and in the slide deck, you will find all the settings I told you. Any questions? You can raise your hand and I will enable your mic and camera. No questions. Are you live? Can someone raise the hand just to see if you're online? No? Thank you. Yes, thank you. So you're awake and you're online, and fine. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks again for the sponsors. And here's the session evaluation for this event. So maybe you'll fill out this also. I hope you found two settings where you say, good that I visited this session, and I hope you found 3 settings where you say, oh, I know the settings, but I will rethink it. And I hope the time was useful. Stay online. The next session is very valuable with Raphael. And I wish you a nice evening, day, in which time zone you are. I will go for a beer now.
Thank you so much, Christian. It was a
Yeah.
fantastic session, Christian.